Slick. New roasting journal. Charge. Hey, welcome back to another Black City Coffee vlog. In this video, as I said before I left, I was going to be sharing a lot more notes and trying to divulge a little bit more to you guys about how I'm going to be creating better coffee, roasting better, cupping better, everything better. And basically it starts here. It starts with the first step that I did after trying to brain dump everything that I could in the last week after the class, and really also going through a rebrand in the company, and really transforming, really changing, all in an effort to make the best coffee that I can make and keep doing it, right? Creating better systems and learning how I'm going to make that happen, how I'm going to create that, how I'm going to be an effective part of the chain and the process that is coffee. There's a lot going on underneath the surface, and it's going so fast that my mouth can't keep up. I'll try to make this as coherent as possible and helpful for you, of course, okay? The first thing that I did after I brain dumped everything onto notebooks and sketch pads and whiteboards and things like that was number one was to keep cupping every single day that I could, okay? So I went on a little camping trip, had a break from the lab, and right away the same day that we got back, I was cupping. And the reason being, if you missed that vlog, I learned that it's not about the machine, it's not about the curves. It gets to be very situational. The biggest thing that I learned was to take an even bigger step back and realize it's not about that. Yes, that all comes into play. I'm not downplaying that a downward sloping curve is generally the way to go about roasting coffee in terms of ROR. But in the end, it's all about the cup. What does it taste like? Is it good? And then how do we define good, and how can we make it great, awesome, out of this world, whatever, right? Based on all those other things that kind of come before it. So that's what I'm doing. I'm taking stock again at all of my green. I had a chance to sample roast all of my in-stock green here, there, and cup it against what I've been doing in production, which had, surprisingly to me, had been a lot darker than I had intended. In my defense, not that I'm trying to defend anything, but I generally just didn't know. Number two is that most of you guys in my customer base do like darker coffees, but there's something really important that I learned when I was at Klatch. Was they were telling me everybody's going to have their own philosophy. I'm going to build my own, you're going to build your own about how to roast coffee, present coffee, sell coffee. Rao has his own, Mill City Roasters have their own, Bodhi has their own, Hasea has their own. I'm just naming a bunch of random coffee entities that I know of. Okay, they're all going to have their own, Onyx, Intelligentsia. And if you don't develop your own, right, he was telling me this, if you don't develop your own philosophy, somebody's going to make it for you. And that's basically what happened to me, right? I was, in a way, trying to be conscious, trying to be mindful and have direction. And I was definitely trying to be, but I wasn't. And I needed a guide and a coach and a mentor to help me see that. And that's maybe one of the biggest benefits of going to a roaster training, is somebody to just, they can step outside of you the way that you can't step outside of you, because you're you and you have bias, right? So somebody to step outside of you and really, and to have all like 30 years plus of knowledge and experience and a love for coffee, and to call you out, which was awesome, right? One of the biggest things that I started to change, that will eventually kind of like just now line up new dominoes for me to hit as we start the rebrand process, the improving all of our coffees processes and stuff like that. So let's get into that. First thing I did was I took 4 100-gram samples of a coffee that I felt I needed to work more on, that I had a lot of green to kind of play with. I knew I was going to be more creative with it so that I could find more uses for it, and I could really bring out the best that I could in this green while I had it. I chose to really workshop Vietnam and really workshop Brazil. And there's a lot of things that I was lacking when I was going through the whole roast process. I was lacking a lot of sweetness and body to the cup. And so I did the 4 samples in my Mill City roaster, 1 kilogram capacity. So I'm running 10% capacity in this machine. It's always going to be a little tough for me to do samples in this machine. Vis-a-vis, I'm going to announce right here, and I bought it on the down low, but I got the Ikawa sample roaster. I was just like, you know what, this is retarded of me. This machine is my production roaster. I shouldn't be developing samples and experimental profiles and potentially like not getting the most accurate data. And I can afford it, so let's go for it. It's a business expense is all. So that's coming, and I'm so excited about that. I had a chance to roast on Klatch's Ikawa, or Ikawa, I don't know how you say it. I say Ikawa because I feel like that's more Japanese, but I don't know. I really don't know. Comment below if you know how to pronounce it. But yeah, it'll be here in the lab. I'll be able to do 100-gram samples like this a lot easier. I can maybe even break them up into like 50-gram samples and waste less in terms of finding the best profile for coffees. So anyway, yeah. Side note on the Ikawa, that's coming. I'm so excited about that. Vietnam and Brazil. So I decided to workshop these first. I can make these sweeter. I can make these better, and I want to start here. 4 samples, 4 tries for me to roast Vietnam and Brazil, 100-gram samples each. Right after every sample of 100 grams in, I would measure out, and that's new at a new process at the roaster. I bring a scale over there, and then I measure the output, and then I can get the weight loss. So the reason why you would want to get weight loss is because as you start to dial in the right profile for that particular coffee, that number is just going to help you be more consistent, right? It's also going to let you know the quality of the bean. There's supposed to be a nice little range for you to land in, like how deep you're going to go into the medium realm, into the light realm, or whatever. So if your DTR percentage is like 17%, 18%, 19%, 20%, etc., that should correlate to the weight loss percentage that you get at the end after you roast your batches. And so these numbers that I'm getting right now for these samples should correlate to my production roast whenever I take this to production roast. Okay, 4 samples in, we get all the numbers. For example, here, this is Brazil number 2, 100 grams in, 87 grams out, 13% weight loss, DTR 21%. So when I was at Klatch, those were like the main notes that I could capture here at home. They do a little bit more. They do like water activity, they do moisture level, bunch of stuff, right? And I just thought these were the things that I could easily be more consistent on and help me dial in my my profiles. Okay, so I'll do the same for the batch number 3, Brazil 3, Brazil 1, Brazil 2, and I'll get different results. So Brazil 3 was 100 grams, 86 grams out, 100 grams in, 86 grams out, 14% weight loss, 22% DTR. So it kind of makes sense, right? You have more weight loss because you roasted it longer. So things like that, like as long as your numbers are kind of making sense, like say you roasted this longer and maybe you didn't have a higher percent in weight loss, then you should be asking some questions like, is this really, did I really roast this correctly? Is this really a 23, 25% DTR roast, right? So the numbers help you diagnose the problem if there's a problem. They also help you kind of narrow in and be like, yeah, that's why this tastes good, right? Things like that. So numbers help give language to, yes, this is good, no, this is bad, things like that, all right? And now the new system is, I do this, I'll cup these and everything, and I'll I'll score them, I'll put all my flavor notes and everything like that, and I'll transfer the meat of those notes into my roast log here, so that everything in the end will be here in this roast log. And that's why I got like a special cover for it, because I definitely didn't want to confuse it with just like any one lying around. And that's just my own personal system that I think will be really helpful. I haven't used it long enough to tell you this is my #1 way to do it, but so far it's working for me. 4 samples of the Vietnam, cupped all those 4, found 2 samples or 2 batches basically that were good to go, I think. Had good flavor, good body, good balance for that roast. Same thing I did with the Brazil. I found 2 that I liked, one that I could use for espresso, another one that I could use for drip. So espresso ones, I'm looking for something with more body and more sweetness. The drip ones, probably a more acidity, something lighter for sure. That could be roasted to a lighter blend or something like that. And I'll make those notes right in here. I'll say Brazil 2 can be used in a blend for drip blend. I've got orange peel, darker red cherries, thinner body, short finish, more acid. Yeah, so I'll have those kind of notes to kind of direct me as to what will this taste good as, you know. Brazil 3, I thought it was for espresso, grapefruit, yellow grapefruit, dark chocolate, a little bit of dry finish, better body than #2, right? So things like that. And I'll have that all in here so I can see and correlate to what it tastes like to what the main markers were in the roast, right? So I had turning point at 1 minute, dry end at 3 minutes. Again, these times are going to be a lot like shorter because they're sample roasts. First crack was at 4 minutes 55 at 376 degrees. Again, that's not really super accurate because of the small batch size. And I dropped it at 6 minutes 20 at 389, 22 DTR, 14% weight loss. So things like that. Charged lower, didn't soak it. So that's the work. As I was observing Clash, this is all they do, basically. This is all they do. It really boils down to that. Now, how accurate you can be in the cupping and how much experience and knowledge and intuition and roaster gut intuition and things like that, all those things that I talked about can be refined even more, right? I gave you a very quick general, and I know the video is not quick, but that's the gist. Yeah, so you might need to revisit it. I'll put some chapters in there for you, but that's basically what I'm doing. I'm just going, putting in the work, cupping, seeing if it's good. How can I make it better? The next step after all the sampling, okay, and you find something good. If you don't find something good, you got to go back. You got to redo stuff. You got to figure it out. You got to diagnose the problem, look at your numbers, all that stuff, okay? But if you find something good, then you go look at those roasts and you translate that to a production roast. So that's what my next video will be, when we translate this to a production roast, meaning I go and roast a full batch on my 1 kilogram machine there, and then we cup them again and see if we get the right results, or the results that we're looking for, based on the data that we took here in the sample roasting. And so it'll be interesting to have all this data, and then when the Ikawa comes in, compare that. You know, obviously the Ikawa is meant to do sample roast, so it's going to be a lot more accurate in terms of temperatures and things like that. But generally, what I'm seeing here and roasting, I think I can get away with it. The reason why I'm getting the Ikawa is because I'm going to be in coffee. And again, like I said, it's a business expense. I was going to get it anyway. They have this other option for me now. I'm getting the white one. Can do like 100 grams, so same size here. And I'm going to be doing it a lot more often, you know, and making sure that I am roasting in the best ways possible so I can present the best coffee that I can here at Black City Coffee. So good things. All right, other things are happening. I will be announcing it. I hope if you're a subscriber to the newsletter, you should be getting a letter from me soon saying that we're going to be going through a massive rebrand on the website and the direction of the bags, what they're going to look like, and making this transition into this new rebrand, new design, new look, new feel, new vibe, new direction. A lot of transformation going on. This year has been incredibly transformative, so I want to thank you guys for being so supportive. If you guys are just starting out, and I'm getting those DMs a lot of like, hey, I'm just starting out, what can I do? Any advice? That's too general of a question. You need to ask better questions so you can get better answers, okay? I have a lot of Q&As on the channel. You can check that out. But I highly encourage you to come at me, bro, with better questions, more specific questions. So not how do I get started? Don't ask me that because you can Google that, okay? So if you're asking me how do I get started, that's a little lazy. And I understand why you're asking that. It doesn't serve you well, you know? If you want my help, ask me specific questions, and I do my best to answer those. And maybe I'll learn something too. This is not me going like, I'm on a high horse and I know everything. No, I'm learning just like you. And I know from experience and how to learn quicker is to ask better questions, you know, more specific questions. Give me scenarios, give me details, give me notes, you know, give me context, you know, not just how do I get started? What do I do about laws? Don't ask me that. Go look it up. What you can ask me is very specific questions like, hey, my coffee seems to crash at this time. Like, maybe you can help me out. Like, what's going on here? I charge it this and it's this kind of coffee. Ask me those kinds of questions, okay? Good things. Thanks for hanging out today. I hope you got something helpful out of today's video. It's really exciting stuff over here, so I hope if you're in the same process, like I hope you're feeling that too. And if you're not, jump on board. This is what it's all about: experimenting, cupping, tasting, having fun with coffee. This is the fun part. So I hope you enjoy it. We will see you in the next one. Bye.